ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, and we ask Him to send His peace and blessings upon His final messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we begin, of course, by saying Alhamdulillah and thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what is yet another unique and an amazing opportunity to witness the month of Ramadan, this blessed month, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to it in the Quran as only ayyam al-ma'dudat. He says it's literally just a few days which you can count on your fingers. Literally, it's how Allah describes the month of Ramadan, and it's true. Because within the next few days, within the next week or so, we will already be counting down the days to the end of Ramadan and to the Eid. This is exactly the trend and the same thing that happens year in, year out. And subhanAllah, it is really a unique blessing because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to witness this, right? And not only witness, but to be here to gain this closeness and this proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just the other day, on Wednesday night, when the announcement for Ramadan was made, I received a message from one of my friends who said that one of his close relatives had just passed away on Wednesday night, just on the eve of Ramadan. Just this morning, after or just before Salatul Fajr, I received a message from one of my friends who said that his relative had just passed away. SubhanAllah, this is just at the very beginning stages of Ramadan, so this is truly an opportunity for us to take advantage of. And it reminds me of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, a narration which is recorded in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, in which there were two companions, two men who accepted Islam around the same time, from the same tribe. They accepted Islam around the same time. And one of these men was martyred in the battlefield, reached the status of a shaheed, of a martyr. And then around a year later, the following year, his companion who accepted Islam around the same time as him, he passed away, but he passed away from just natural causes, died of natural causes. One of the companions saw in his dream that the one who had passed away a year after, right, a year after the one who had been martyred, had reached Jannah first, had reached paradise first, and he was amazed by this. How could a person who died of natural causes, died a year later, reach Jannah before the one who was martyred and reached the status of a shaheed? So he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he explained his dream. And our Prophet said, "Why are you amazed for? The one who passed away a year later observed one additional and extra Ramadan than the one who even was martyred the year prior. Having this extra Ramadan in our lives and being able to fast and being able to pray and being able to recite Quran and being able to attain this taqwa and being able to get closer to Allah, this is priceless. So this is an amazing opportunity. So within the short space of time we have, what I'll be sharing, inshallah, is 5 tips. How at this beginning stage of Ramadan, how we can inshallah make the most out of this blessed month. So these 5 tips are as follows. Number 1, it's a very simple and practical tip, which is that we need to pace ourselves, especially at the beginning of this month. What do I mean by this? Pacing ourselves means that sometimes what can happen is the excitement overtakes us. The excitement overtakes us, right? We become extremely zealous. We're motivated. We want to do good because it's Ramadan, and this is great. If you feel that way, then that's good. But don't let the excitement take you to such a level that you push yourself so hard in the opening days and opening nights of Ramadan, which then leads to burnout, which then leads to spiritual, physical, mental burnout. Whereby now, for the remainder of Ramadan, you don't have the same level of energy, or the same level of motivation, because you pushed yourself so hard. So absolutely we would say that Ramadan is the month to push yourself. It is the month to level up with our prayers, with our fasting, with our Quran, and so on and so forth. But we should pace ourselves, especially in the first portion. You know, we find numerous ahadith and narrations of our Prophet ﷺ in which, when the last 10 nights would enter, that's where he would get serious. That's where he would level up to another degree. That's where he would exert himself, stay up in the night, wake his family members up, etc. Right? The last 10 nights should be when we push ourselves to the max. If we push ourselves to the max now, then there is this fear of losing out on the rain of Ramadan. So which one is better? A person who pushes themselves and has an amazing maybe 3, 4, 5 nights or days of Ramadan, but then the rest is average. Or the one who consistently does good, even if it's a bit less, but is consistent throughout the entire 29 or 30 days. Of course, the latter is better. So tip number one is pace yourself. Definitely increase. Do as much good as you can, but pace yourself and don't allow doing too much to burn you out. The second tip is related to fasting. Each and every single one of us, inshallah, we're making the aim to fast, those of us who can fast, right? We have to remember the purpose of fasting. We know the famous verse in the Quran in which Allah tells us that the ultimate objective of our siyam, of our fasting, is to attain taqwa of Allah, is to attain this consciousness of Allah. And we know that this is just a given with fasting. When we fast, when we suppress our desires, when we abstain from food and drink and these temptations, right? What happens is our desires are suppressed. When our desires and our egos are suppressed, then automatically it becomes a lot easier to refrain from sin, and it becomes a lot easier to do good. So, remembering the purpose of our fasting, but it's not just limited to what? It's not just limited to staying away from food and drink. Some people, they ask this question, okay, if I was to commit a sin, if I was to sin, if I was to backbite, or gossip, or slander, right, sins of the tongue, if I was to, waste time, vain pursuits and so on, would this break my fast? Would this invalidate my fast? So the answer is technically no. Your fast would not be invalidated or broken by sinning, by committing a sin. No, it wouldn't be. Right? Legally, technically speaking, your fast is valid. But what does it break? It breaks the spirit of your fast. It breaks the blessings of your fast. It breaks the reward of your fast. It is very much possible that a person's fasting is valid, is accepted, but they don't gain any reward from it. Or they gain minimum reward for fasting. It's very much possible. Because if we're wasting our time, if we're doing the same things that we were doing outside of Ramadan, and we're continuing to sin, or we're wasting our time, etc., and we're fasting, then the reward and the blessings of this fast is just completely sucked away. So what should we do is remember the purpose and the objective of fasting. One of the companions said that if you fast, إِذَا سُمْتَ, then let your ears, your tongue, your everything, every part of your body, let every part of your body observe the fast. Not just refraining from food and drink. So remembering this is extremely important, that fasting is beyond just refraining from food and drink and temptations. It's refraining from every aspect. It's not wasting time. It's to be more conscious and mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every aspect of our lives. Tip number 3 is that Ramadan is, of course, no doubt a month of dhikr, and it's a month of dua. It's a month of dhikr and dua. Dhikr in the sense that we should fill our time, as much of our time as possible, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the time now. Whether it's commuting to work, walking, you're driving your car, you're on a bus, whether you're at home, whether you're in a masjid, wherever you may be, fill your time with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Whether it's just saying subhanallah, saying alhamdulillah, right? Saying la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, saying astaghfirullah, doing istighfar, seeking forgiveness from Allah, right? Sending salawat upon the Prophet, whatever it may be, fill your time with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Especially one additional tip I'd give is, especially with istighfar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He praises those people who, especially at a particular time, they do istighfar. He says in the Quran, وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ وَبِالْأَسْحَارِ هُمْ يَسْتَغْفِرُونَ. At the time of ashar, which we could also say suhoor, right? Suhoor, they are seeking forgiveness and doing istighfar. This is a time when the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they will increase in istighfar. The time of suhoor, in other words, is a blessed time. It's the last portion of the night. It's the time for tahajjud prayer. So especially when we wake up for suhoor and to eat, and we definitely should because there's blessings and barakah in the suhoor, and it's a blessed time and we should try and engage in some act of worship, whether it's just praying or trying to do some dhikr, as well as partaking in the meal, right? This is a blessed time. And dua as well. Many of us, we neglect dua. We do our siyam, we do our qiyam, we do our sadaqah, our charity and so on, but dua is neglected. Ramadan is a month of dua. Our Prophet tells us that there are 3 categories of people. 3 categories of people, right? Whose du'as are never rejected. Their du'as are never turned away. They're never rejected. And one of the 3 he mentions, as-sa'imu hina yuftir. The fasting person when they're about to break their fast. A fasting person, right? Their fast is not rejected. It's not turned away. Especially when they're about to break their fast. Especially those crucial moments and minutes before iftar. where many of us were busy preparing the meal, heating up the food, right? Many of us are busy counting the dates, pouring the water, pouring the milk, you know, just waiting, right? We're just so hungry, we start to salivate a few minutes before the only thing on our minds at that point is, what am I going to eat? Is it going to be warm enough? Is it going to be hot enough? Am I going to enjoy it? Not dua. This is a crucial moment. So to engage in dua a few minutes before iftar. Don't waste those moments, right? Make as much dua to Allah because these duas are not rejected. So that was number 3, the final ones. Number 4, and this one may sound a bit strange to some of you may even, you know, be borderline offended by this one. Number 4, Ramadan is not the month of social gatherings. Ramadan is not a month of social gatherings. Sometimes what happens is we make a habit of social gatherings throughout the month of Ramadan. I invite you to my house, you invite me to yours, let's have iftar, let's have, you know, food together, a dawat at my place and so on. Right? We're inviting each other, we're spending time. Okay, with good intentions of course. I know for a fact we do this with good intentions. We want to feed other people who are fasting, we want to spend time with our families, with the community. That's great, that's a very good intention. But to make Ramadan a month where we're habitually doing this, right? Where we're spending so much time at other people's houses and gatherings, what happens? We're wasting precious time and precious energy. Precious energy, the one who's preparing the food is spending the whole day preparing food and not even focused on ibadah, on worshipping. The people who are there, you know, engaging and eating the food and having iftar together, they're wasting precious time because what's happening? They're chatting away, they're talking with one another, they're missing the time before iftar, making dua, right? They're getting late for tarawih and so on. It becomes social gathering. Now, of course, it goes without saying, there may be people who are, you know, students, people who are single, new Muslims and so on, who rely on public, you know, gatherings or iftars within the masjid. That's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about making it a habit actively to just always have family gatherings throughout Ramadan. This is not the time for social gatherings. The time for, inshallah, social gatherings and family activities and having lots of food is on Eid day and the days that follow. Inshallah, you can enjoy yourself following Eid day and on the day itself. But Ramadan is a time for you and Allah. Not just a time for you and family and you and the community and you and everybody else. You and Allah. Spend as much time as possible with you and Allah. This is extremely important. Spend as many moments as you can to yourself with Allah. Make those du'as in the middle of the night when you wake up to support. At iftar time, forget everybody else, right? Make preparations in advance as well. So what if your food is slightly, you know, less warm when you eat it? What we're trying to do is 2 minutes before iftar, we warm up the food so that it's perfect. And by the time we have it and break our fast, who cares if it's a little bit cold, right? That doesn't matter. Right? It's not about the food, it's about the opportunities that we're missing. So that was number 4. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, okay, but I want to get reward for feeding other people. There are other ways for feeding people and getting that reward. You can send food to someone's house. You don't have to have an entire gathering and social activity out. You can send food, you can donate, you can sponsor iftar in the masjid, and you can get the same reward without the same level of effort and time that it takes, inshallah. Number 5, and the final one. This one's extremely important. I've left this one to last. Tip number 5. Is focus in Ramadan on quantity and quality. Focus on quantity and quality. What happens a lot? Usually outside of Ramadan we say, focus on what? Quality over quantity is what we say, right? Focus on quality over quantity. In Ramadan, it's not one or the other. It's not one or the other. It's quality along with quantity. But what happens a lot of time in Ramadan is that we're more focused on quantity and less on the quality. I'll give you a few examples, right? Now, of course, like I said, I've already clarified this, that we should push ourselves in Ramadan to do as much as we can, right? Push ourselves, especially in the last 10 nights, right? But what happens is we become so focused and centered around quantity. How many rakat of salah am I praying? Is it 20, 30, 40, 50, right? But then you look at the quality of the salah that's being prayed, and it's just up and down, no reflection, you know, just cutting things short, taking shortcuts. Okay, the focus is, I want to recite the Quran. That's great. Definitely recite as much Quran as you can. If possible, do khatam of the Quran and complete the Quran. But sometimes we become so focused on the quantity. How much Quran can I recite? I just want to be able to finish the khatam. I want to be able to say that I've done a khatam of Quran. That what do? We're speeding through the Quran. Speeding through, making mistakes. Don't care what we're reciting. No reflection over it. Just so by the end of Ramadan we can say, oh, alhamdulillah, I did a khatam. Do you see what I'm saying here? Is that focus on the quantity, yes. Do the khatam. Do however many rakat you can of salah, tahajjud and tarawih, etc. in the night time. But don't miss the quality as well. Don't miss out on the quality, right? That even a few rakat of salah, if you do it properly, you spend your time with devotion, with humility, with khushu', with concentration, right? With that high level of quality, trust me, that will have more of a lasting impact on you post-Ramadan than 20, 30 without any devotion does. Reciting Quran, but reflecting on it, taking lessons from it, reciting it properly, beautifully, is far better than speaking through and in turn doing a disservice to the Quran. So the final tip is what, brothers and sisters, is to focus on the quality as well as the quantity, and not just the quantity in this month of Ramadan. These are a few tips, and inshallah, if we can carry forward, we're still at the very early stages, we're just still in the first few days of Ramadan. If we can carry these tips forward, inshallah, keep these in mind, and then inshallah, with sincerity, pushing ourselves to do the best that we can, then really all it comes down to thereafter is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepting it from us. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts all of our good deeds. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our fasting, and He accepts our qiyam, and He accepts our siyam, and He accepts our tilawah of Quran, and He accepts the charity, the sadaqah that we give. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts all the good that we do privately and publicly. Allah, we ask you to bless us in this month of Ramadan, to allow this Ramadan to be the best Ramadan yet in our lives. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us all goodness and steadfastness in this month. Allahumma ahdina fi man hadayt, wa aafina fi man aafayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina wasrif 'anna sharra ma qadayt, fa innaka taqdi bil haqqi wa la yuqda 'alayk, innahu la yadhillu man walayt, wa la ya'izzu man 'adayt, tabarakta rabbana wa ta'alayt. نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك. اللهم هب لنا عملا صالحا يقربنا إليك. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم بارك لنا في رمضان. اللهم بارك لنا في رمضان. اللهم تقبل صيامنا. اللهم تقبل قيامنا. اللهم تقبل ركوعنا وسجودنا. اللهم تقبل تلاوتنا. اللهم تقبل أعمالنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات وجميع أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم، ولذكر الله تعالى أكبر، والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقيموا الصلاة.